Abduction, Chapter 35, Part 2. I gathered my coat around me and stepped out onto the walkway. I heard a shrill behind me and turned to see John step out of the car. "Holy Mother of Jesus!" exclaimed John. "Is it always this damn cold?" I chuckled. "Come on, let's keep moving and hope it warms our body." "We can hope till the cows come home. We aren't going to warm up much in this frigid weather until we find a way into the castle." I didn't want to tell John that many parts of the castle were likely not to be heated. The two of us walked side by side along the shoveled walking path. The snow we had earlier in the evening had proved to be nothing more than a dusting of new snow in the city. The minor wind blowing now was enough to scoot what little fresh snow there was off the walkway. "You know what this reminds me of?" I asked. "Yeah, I do," replied John. "Our college days when it seemed like we purposely went out to look for trouble." I guffawed and smiled. "I have a lot of good memories of those days." "Me too," said John. "Just for shits and giggles, let's try the gate and see if they forgot to lock it." As we approached the gate, I took a look around the area to see if anyone was around. There was no one. The residents were probably the only people thought it best to be indoors during the cold Ukrainian winter night. John and I certainly didn't at this point, but it wasn't about us or our comfort. I tested the lock with a hard tug. Nothing happened to indicate that it would budge without a key to unlock it. "There has to be another way inside," muttered John as he began to search to the right of the entranceway. I gave John a blank stare. He must not have realized that the castle was meant to keep intruders out, and John and I certainly classified as people that needed to keep out. However, I had to agree with John. There had to be another way inside. Then I suddenly realized that there wasn't a statue anywhere like the vision the alien had given me. Had I misinterpreted what was shown to me? "What's wrong?" said John as he came up to me. "Something's not right," I replied. "There's no statue." "Maybe the statue is inside the castle," said John. "Let's look at the lock again." The two of us walked up to the door again. John gave the lock a tug, and it didn't budge. We were not getting inside. I was having doubts about my gut feelings. "What is your gut instinct telling you?" asked John. I took a breath and closed my eyes. When I opened them, I took a step back, looked down. Where my foot once stood was a keychain with keys on it. I must have brushed away the snow when I took a step back. "You think one of them will work?" I asked. John picked up the keychain and started trying the keys one at a time. "I'm hoping one of them does." John smiled and looked at me as the lock gave way. "What are the odds?" I shook my head. There was no way someone would have accidentally dropped the keys. I had only one explanation, and I was keeping it to myself. If I told anyone, they would think I was crazy and put me away in a mental institution. The door creaked open, and darkness enveloped John and me. We were inside where the porticus would have been. If I said it wasn't creepy, I would be lying. I closed the door behind us in case someone casually walked up to check to see if it was closed. It would look like it was shut, at least. I would hate to be caught breaking into a national treasure. I could only imagine what would happen to us back home, but we were in Ukraine. "There's stairs over here," said John as he took the lead through the porticus area. "It goes up, so this must be the way into the tower." If it wasn't for the pitch black going up the stairwell, I would have bolted up them, because we were so close to finding Natasha, I could almost feel her pulse. I reached the top landing and stopped. "Which way now?" asked John. "This way," I said as I headed toward the closed door. "She's in here. I know it." John and I examined the door. It wasn't going to open without a key. "Let's hope one of these opens it," said John as he pulled out the keychain we found. I was feeling despair as none of the keys fit into the keyhole. "Step aside, guys," said Valeri. I had not heard anyone come up from behind us because I was focused on John trying to get the door open. Valeri raised his leg and struck the door. It popped open with a bang, and then a second bang as the door swung and crashed into the wall. "Natasha!" I cried as I entered the room first. John and Valeri entered after and shouted for Natasha. The room was so dark you had to feel in front of you with your hands and hope you didn't bump into anything. I heard a moan to the left of me and damn near broke my shin on something unseen. "Fuck, that hurts," I exclaimed, and sidestepped whatever was in front of me by shuffling my feet along the floor. "Are you okay?" asked John. "I'm fine," I replied. "Natasha is over by me." I heard shuffling behind me as John and Valeri must have been changing directions. I kept up my search using my hands, and I felt something soft. I was touching someone. I felt around more and bent over to scoop that person up. "I've got her," I said. I walked cautiously out of the room and into the dim light of the hallway. I looked at the person I carried. It was Natasha. We had found her, and the drama was over. I set her down, and Valeri began to undo her restraints. John undid the blindfold and removed the gag. Once the gag was removed, Natasha smiled. I knew you would come for me." Once the restraints were off, Natasha wrapped her arms around me. She felt beautiful in my arms. I closed my eyes and held on to her tightly, relieved that we had found her. I could not imagine what it must have been like to be locked up and tied up with no light. "You're safe now," I said as I felt Natasha's tears fall onto my cheek and neck. "No one's going to hurt you again." "I know," muttered Natasha in my ear. "You are here, and everything will be good." We separated a bit, but still held on to each other. Natasha reached up with her tiptoes and kissed me passionately. I smiled before wiping the tears from her eyes. She released me and trotted over to Valeri. "You came for me too," Natasha said happily and hugged Valeri. Natasha released Valeri and looked at John. "You, I don't know, but thank you for rescuing me."